All right, ladies and gentlemen, just want to remind you, as awesome as digital learning is and being able to make these videos for you, we are really missing you guys. I know that sounds weird, like teachers miss us. Yes, we miss you guys. We miss the interaction, the fun stories, the silliness, the talking. I don't know if I'd ever say that, but we miss you guys a lot. So let's do the best that we can, because again, our goal is to get you learning still, get you ready for next year, and hopefully you'll be awesome again. All right, Math 7. Today is lesson 3.4. Again, we're still solving equations, and solving equations, again, is, I believe, the #1 skill moving on to 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and so on. If you can solve equations, you have a great basis for a bunch of the other math. So let's see here. 3, 4. So on 3-3, we did addition, subtraction. 3-4, we're going to talk about multiplication and division. So scroll down. Same strategy. Look at some of the examples already pre-made in the textbook. Do some on the screen, and hopefully you get your memory refreshed. All right, so just like the adding and subtracting property from the previous lesson, we're going to go ahead and keep the equation balanced. So again, if I multiply on the left, I need to multiply on the right. If I divide on the left, I need to divide on the right. So do the same thing on both sides. And a small reminder there that C cannot be equal to 0, because if you divide by 0, you get an undefined answer, but we're not worrying about that right now. So what we may have here, if it helps you, you could always put a little 1 in front of the x. So you would multiply by the reciprocal. And again, we know that word. It's not the flip. Please don't use that. Use the word reciprocal. And when I do or show my work, I always like using parentheses best. So make sure you do that. My daughter's learning this basic understanding right now, but again, she's not in the negatives at all. The negatives are pretty much reserved for junior high and high school. And this one right here, I'm going to give some strategies on what I would suggest you do. I don't like having the 18 here. I always like having the variable first, so I would personally move the 18 over there on the right side, and I will show you that strategy when we do number 3 together. Now, when you take your next little mini assessment, there are going to be some fractional and decimal answers, so make sure you remember how to do that, especially if it's a fractional answer. Make sure you are reducing, because again, 2/10 would be unacceptable. 1/5 is what we would be looking for. Make sure you can reduce your fractions. So again, we'll get into some of those on your own there. Let's see. This one right here, very, very important. Again, practicing with the reciprocal. We got -5/4 is the reciprocal. We multiply that on both sides. We look for cross-canceling, or just like when we did our distributive property, you can multiply and then divide, and you'll still get the same answer. Real-life application on your work throughout the year and throughout high school and 8th grade. You're also going to need to be able to look for your word problems, essentially. Remember, is, equal sign, times, multiplication. So you got some different ideas on how to set it up there. All right. And then your quick assignment there. So I will type up the even answers for you, so you'll be able to check as well. All right, let's jump right into our solving. So lesson 3.4, solve the equation. Check your solution. So for number 1, I'm going to suggest that maybe you write it as 1/5x is equal to -2. That looks just a little bit better, because it would be similar if it was like a 2/5, so 1/5, same idea. I'm going to go ahead and practice again using multiplication on both sides, because a fraction line is like division, and to undo division, we would use multiplication. So the reciprocal of 1/5 is just 5/1, and again, we do that both sides. Let me change colors just to emphasize that. You can put a little 1 underneath there. So x is going to be equal to -2 times 5 is -10. Now, checking it is a really great test-taking strategy. Remember, you take the original problem and you substitute what your answer is. So x over 5, so x is negative 10, so that's a negative 10 over 5. And we think, or we are expecting to get negative 2. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Negative 2 does equal negative 2, so we are good to go there. Excellent. Looking at number 2. It helps some students if they see their number there. So kind of like a 2a, a 3a, a negative 2a, a negative 3a, but this is a negative 1a. This problem is like multiplication, negative 1 multiplied by whatever value of a is. So the inverse operation is to divide. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by negative 1. So it means a is going to be equal to negative divided by negative is a positive. 24 divided by 1 is 24. If I were to check it, remember, it really just says negative, and then a is 24. And I got negative 24. Well, that's kind of a duh statement. Negative 24 does equal negative 24. All right, let's rock on. All right, number 3, that's what I was suggesting you do, and this is what I asked my 8th graders to do, even my personal 8th grader here at home. I tell him, hey, if you got your number here on the left, let's just go ahead and move it to the right, and then we lightly cross that off. And that just looks a little bit easier for students when it's presented this way because it's consistent, and we also want to see the variable on the left side for our answer, and really that's the high school thing to do as well. It just makes it a little bit easier for us to read. Divide by negative 1.5. So it means n is equal to, oops, I've got the negative sign right there. Don't be like me. Positive divided by negative is a negative, and 3 divided by 1.5 is going to be 2. So our answer is negative 2. Now, if I were to check that, remember I would have to use the original problem. So that would be 3 is equal to negative 1.5 multiplied by my n value, which I think is negative 2. Negative multiplied by negative is positive. 1.5 times 2 is definitely 3. So checking your answer, great strategy, especially, let's say, if it was a multiple choice problem, or really you're just a little unsure of your answer. It takes a little bit extra time, but it can really pay off. All right, this is, I think, the main concern, because a lot of students are satisfactory or even excellent with their signs, so let's continue to be excellent with our signs. But the thing that really sets them apart, again, remember, is experience with fractions. So let's go ahead and try our best. So looking at number 4, again, I'm going to use the strategy of moving the negative 14. So I'll just rewrite it down here. 2/3 x is equal to negative 14. Fraction, like division, go ahead and multiply for your inverse operation. The reciprocal of 2/3 is really 3/2. So that's going to give me x is equal to. Now, if you notice on this one, compared to what we had here on problem 1, is I do need to do some cross-canceling, or I can multiply and then divide. But I really think that cross-canceling is a little bit easier for students. So 2 becomes a 1, and 14 becomes a 7. Now, right away, you should have known that the answer would have been negative, because a negative multiplied by a positive is a negative, and then 7 times 3 is 21. Now, if you wanted to check it again, you would use the original. So that's negative 14 is equal to 2/3 multiplied by, and I would put it negative 21 over 1, which would facilitate my cross-canceling. So 3 becomes a 1, 21 becomes a 7, and then, yeah, that makes sense. Negative 14 is equal to 2 multiplied by negative 7, negative 14. Hey, there we go. All right, let's do 2 more here. All right, number 5 is structured good, but again, if you notice, I don't have a ton of room to work, so I'm going to go ahead and just bring it down here. Negative 8/5, b is equal to 5. Now, let's use our reciprocal. What I personally like doing is not stressing too much about the negative sign, so it means I'm just going to keep it at the top. because in math, we really don't like the negative sign at the denominator. I'm really concerned on the reciprocal here. Reciprocal of 8 over 5 is 5 over 8. Don't forget the negative sign. And then if you want to put a little 1 there, should be good. All right, everything cross cancels gives me positive b is equal to 5 multiplied by negative 5 is negative 25 over 8, because I could not cross cancel there. Or what is your mixed number going to be? It's negative, of course. 8 goes into 25 3 times, because 8 times 3 is 24. Need a 1 at the top. Negative 3 and 1/8. Beautiful, beautiful there. All right. Oh, one more. If you were going to check it, really small reminder here, if you're going to check number 5, you would use this answer, because the negative 3 and 1/8, not the greatest to check. That's why in 8th grade, we prefer primarily improper fractions. The only time we really use mixed numbers in 8th grade is when we're talking about word problems like pies and ribbon and things like that. All right, so last one. 3 over 8h is equal to negative 9. So again, like division, so that means I'm going to use multiplication to solve. Reciprocal is 8 over 3. Put a 1 underneath it. All right, and if you notice this time, I should be able to do some cross-canceling. Before you do that, maybe you want to look at your sign, though. A negative multiplied by a positive is a negative. 3 becomes a 1. 9 becomes a 3. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. Beautiful. So what you're going to be doing, again, is your best to go ahead and practice your skills. All right, go ahead and be awesome.